Hello, loved ones. This is Matt Stevens, and as always, I hope you are doing super fantastic. And I talk about awakening just about every time I have one of these little talks. And I've also referred to awakening as becoming as like being becoming lucid in a dream. For example, when you have a dream, if you are one of those people who are fortunate enough to be able to lucid dream, that's when you become conscious and aware during the dream state while your body's asleep, and you become conscious and aware, like, wow, hang on, I'm awake in the dream. And of course, everybody who lucid dreams says that's when it gets really cool. You can control the dream, you can fly, you can do all these fantastic things because in that state there are really no laws of physics, not as we understand them in the physical anyway. So that's pretty cool. However, when we've heard of this lifetime, this existence as being a dream. It's like, yeah, but who is the dreamer? Is the dreamer, are we the dreamer? Or is the dreamer the big cheese, the creator, the universal source consciousness? I believe it's a universal source consciousness personally, but there's many little caveats to that. In that, as I've said before, the universal consciousness had its awakening, its I am moment. It's awakening and realized I exist. And maybe it asked itself, who am I, where am I, what am I, all of those things. But nonetheless, it had a realization, I exist. I don't know what I don't know, but I do know one thing, I exist. And therefore I am. And that's fascinating. That's profound. I mean, clearly, but I mean, it's so much more than just that, because have come to understand that when the universal consciousness had its awakening, had its I am moment, it began creating in its mind. It began imagining all these different scenarios, I suppose. It wanted to explore itself. It realized that I am a mind and I have all these so many facets, so many things, so many ways I could go, so many ways I could explore. Let me do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to explore and figure out what all and just explore it. So, therefore, it splintered itself into however many billions or trillions or whatever aspects of itself. You being one of them, I'm another one. And now we are exploring our aspect of the dream, of the imagined in its own mind, and the imagined creation. But when you, as an individuated unit of consciousness, when you become awake in the dream, when you have your own awakening, when you realize I am, that's when you realize I am awake, I am awakening in this dream, and there's so much more to me than just this physical body. In fact, all this physical body is a means of having an experience. It gives me a way to explore just this one part of it. But then when we become awakened to that, when we become awakened to that, it is as if we have become lucid in this dream, the universal consciousness's dream. However, the universal consciousness's dream, yes, it's much bigger. However, we are aspects of it exploring the dream. So you are exploring the dream from your aspect, from your experience. And then when you become lucid, as we have learned through lucid dreaming, you can then control the dream. People who lucid dream say they can fly in their dreams, they can do just all kinds of really cool things in their lucid dreams. Now, of course, we can't fly because we do have natural law. We do have the laws of physics. We do have things we still have to observe. There are rules in place in this physical realm. For example, the speed of light, some people say that's the processing speed of this realm, or the Planck length, the smallest unit of measurement that there is before it all just breaks down. Some would say that that is the pixel that makes up this realm. And yes, I've read the Rizwan Burke recently. Rizwan Burke's book, The Simulation Hypothesis, and the thing about it is that it refers to those pixels, but this would be in a 3D way. Now, and if we referring to he's of course he refers to it as the video game, and we look at pixels on a flat screen. But if it were pixels in a 3D environment, then that would be many of the little Planck lengths that make up this environment, each of which, well, they all kind of run together, and therefore here you are. You've got your physical realm. Now, can we control that in the lucid, once we become lucid in the dream? Yes, of course we can. However, it's not the same as being lucid in a dream when our avatar is asleep, because when we're in that realm, we don't have the same rules as we have here. In that realm, we can fly. In this realm, we cannot. In the physical realm, there is gravity. There are natural law. However, that's why that you have to learn that. However, when we learn those rules, when we learn natural law, we come to accept the fact that, okay, speed of light, that's the processing speed limit. That's the fastest anything can move or be processed in this realm. The Planck length, that's the smallest unit of measurement. That would be considered the pixel in this 3D realm. Gravity exists in this realm, so we can't jump up and take off flying through the air. But once we accept those things, it's like, okay, I understand what we can't do, but I also understand what we can do. We have learned that we are able to manipulate the quantum field. We are able to, with the power of vibration, which is through our thought, we can control the quantum field. We can manifest amazing lives for ourselves, right? However, as I've said before, we have to understand, we have to accept the fact that yes, we are in the physical, we are in the 3D. We do have linear time here. So, as I've said before, if you manifest, it could be argued that when you manifest something, it does manifest instantly, but it doesn't necessarily manifest instantly in the physical. The physical is slow and it has to catch up. And where most people mess up is they de-manifest it before they get to it. But that was another talk. However, when we become lucid in this dream and we realize that this is a dream and we can become lucid in it when we have our awakening, and then by doing that we can learn through natural law, through the rules of the game, what we can and cannot do, and therefore begin to manipulate it. Quantum physics shows us that just the fact of through observation, through focused attention, we can determine whether something is a this or if it's a that. And that is fascinating, and it's pretty darn cool too, right? I mean, it just is, dear loved one. So, yeah, but I want to switch it up just a little bit, because I'm always fascinated with Nikola Tesla and how when he would come up with his grand inventions, this wasn't something that he would brainstorm for months and years over. This isn't something that he would do all these test trials and errors and all of that over. Most of the time he would go into a meditative state, project his consciousness into the field. I got to believe that's basically adjusting his frequency, adjusting his vibration to get into resonance with what would be considered a higher realm, a higher dimension. And he finds the answer to whatever it is he's working on, downloads that, and then comes out of the meditative state with all that knowledge that he brought in with him. That's like looking at the manifestation, but bypassing the 3D, the linear time, the having to wait. I hope that makes sense. But he would bring back insight. And what that teaches us is that if Nikola Tesla can do it, so can we. But we just have to become aware, awakened to the fact that we can do this. Once we awaken to that, we awaken to the dream, and we realize this experience is like a dream. It only feels very real and material because currently I'm immersed in it. That's why it feels so real at the moment. But I also got to believe, because as out of body experiencers will tell you, when they are in the astral, that seems just as real there as this does here. So I got to believe that once we are out of this physical realm, once the avatar ceases to function and we detach from it, we will probably look back on this experience and it will seem very, maybe etheric. It may seem very just strange. It's like, wow, and it was so real when we were there, but now that I'm looking back on it, it's like that was so strange. I don't know. That's speculation, of course. However, when we tap into those other realms, getting back to that, dear loved one. And if you haven't hit the like button yet, please do that. That would be fantastic. I would appreciate that so much. And if you have not yet subscribed, please do that. There have been quite a few new subscribers in the past week or so, and that's great. I really appreciate it. And welcome. And so when we tap into those higher realms, we go into the meditative state, we raise our vibration, we broadcast our consciousness out into that field. You have to do it with intention, though. Broadcast into the field with intention of finding an answer, finding whatever it is you're looking for, whatever it is you are hoping to do. And bring that back. So anyway, dear loved ones, I just wanted to get into that a little bit. I have been revisiting, by the way, Deepak Chopra's 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, and they are fascinating. I would love to do a live stream or something based on that. Of course, I've got a list of things I'd like to do a live stream on, but I would really like to do it with you online, dear loved one. So that's something that we're going to have to work on at some point in the near future. So anyway, dear loved one, if you haven't hit the like button yet, please do so. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so. And besides that, that's what I got for you. But I do love you. I truly do. And I will be back directly.